It is the anniversary of 9/11. We have memorials going on, of course, across the country. In El Paso, the El Paso Fire Sheriff's and Police Department are commemorating those who lost their lives during the attacks of September 11th, paying special tribute at a ceremony at the Firefighters Memorial Park. That is at 316 West Overland, taking place today in about 30 minutes. So, Fire Chief Mario D'Agostino will be there. Sheriff Richard Wiles and Police Chief Greg Allen will be the keynote speakers of this event. And events like this are going on all over the United States today. This is a tricky one. I know that it's, 9/11, Patriots Day is what it's called, but you always have to be really, you don't want a happy Patriots Day, It just doesn't work to say it that way. It's a very somber day, of course.
Exactly.
I know there was some talk about making it a holiday, like a day you get off a work holiday. But as soon as you do that, you know what's going to happen. Cookouts and mattress cells.
Exactly.
Or what it's going to be. So Jill Janus is with us from the band Huntress. She came in the studio a few months back.
Yes, that's correct.
Hi there, Jill.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. And on this 13th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, I had no idea until I was told this morning. But Lisa told me you were at work in the World Trade Center the night before and even into the early morning hours of September 11.
Yeah, it's something I haven't really shared with a lot of Huntress fans. It's just something that I've experienced and moved on. I was actually just featured in the National Geographic 2-hour documentary called 9/10: The Final Hours. So that kind of brought everything back up, and that's why I made it more public.
Set the stage for us. What was going on? What was the nature of your work inside the World Trade Center?
Well, when I was a youngin' and I just graduated from college, I was a DJ, a cabaret singer, a promoter, nightclub promoter. And so this is how I made money to pay my rent and to fund my music. So I was hired by Windows on the World, Floor 107, to perform a cabaret and DJ every Monday night at Windows on the World, greatest bar on earth. And I did that for about 4 years. So the day before, it was business as usual. It was a really stormy night. It was raining really heavily. And just went up there and set up my DJ booth and started to greet the clients and, get the party started. And what was interesting is the rain subsided and it became a beautiful, clear night. You could see forever. And we would stand right on the edges of the world, essentially, and just see forever. And it was quite a magical night. But one thing in particular was that it wasn't that busy because it was really rainy. So that night I ended up leaving a little bit earlier, which is around 1:30 in the morning. And I would always take the elevator down. There's 2 elevators you had to take because it's such a hike. You have to take one down to around just the 70th floor, and then then catch another one down to the main lobby. And it was tower number 1. So I deposited my check in Tower 1, and then caught a cab and headed back up to the Upper East Side where I was living. And I still have that receipt that says deposit September 11th, 1:30 a.m. Windows on World Trade Center number 1, which is kind of a little piece of history there as well.
Yeah, and you worked there on a fairly regular basis. Were you considered an employee of the building? I know I've worked in buildings before where you get pass keys and that sort of thing. And you got to remember, we're talking about a pre-9/11 world still at this point. So, was there security of any kind to keep you from going back and forth? Because after doing it a while, I'm sure you got to be a familiar face around there.
Yeah, well, not only was I working as a promoter and, a performer at Windows on the World, but prior to me being hired by Windows on the World, I actually was working for a company called Teleport Communications Group. And I was doing that when I was maybe around 18 years old. and that was a temp job. So I was a receptionist. So I, in fact, did have a security key. And I was working as a receptionist in at World Trade Center number 1 prior to me being hired for Windows on the World. So not only was I there as a performer, but I was also there as a temp receptionist. And that was, years prior to me, working for Windows on the World. When I was working on floor 107, there was security where I had to be approved and had to sign in. And at that point, they knew me really well. But what was interesting is it was pretty lackadaisical looking back at it. Obviously, it was ultimately very lackadaisical with letting people come and go. I mean, they had a pretty good system, but it was very corporate still. It was really corporate, and the building inside was actually quite cold and rather ugly. It wasn't anything particularly spectacular, but the thing about Windows on the World is they really wanted to transport you and take away that cold, ugly corporate vibe. So that's what was so unique about Floor 107 is you're riding up this elevator and it's very corporate in that whole vibe, and then the doors open and it's just like a little disco dance wonderland.
In the days after September 11th. Did anybody want to interview or talk to, and I mean interview the authorities, did they want to talk to people who had been in the building the hours leading up? Did anybody ever ask you any questions about what had happened or anything you might have seen?
No, it was really strange because me taking on the nightlife shift and working that late and no longer having a day job there, it just kind of, it all just was just dissipated. After 9/11, what occurred was I worked that job at night. And as a DJ, I had a pretty dual life, like I have now even, with my music career, and I have other ways of making income as a DJ. We weren't really pushed to be interviewed or anything. We were we were with the party people up there. I think they were more interested in talking with everyone that was, involved corporate-wise with World Trade Center. But after I left around 1:30 on 9/11, 1:30 a.m., just a few hours later, I had another day job. I was also a secretary up on 21st Street. So when I finished that job, I would sleep for a few hours. I would get my ass out of bed and then head over to my day job, and that was around 7 in the morning. So on a few hours of sleep, I came into work on 21st Street, got a phone call from the office manager, and he said, Jill, you need to get out of the building. A plane just flew into the tower. Like, well, I was just there like 4 hours ago. I don't believe you.
Jill, he told you to get out of the building you were working at?
Yeah, I wasn't. At this point, I was up on 21st Street. I was working for a company called Raw Interactive. So I was on 21st Street, and this was just a few hours after I left World Trade Center.
Now, the reason for clearing out, was it because at that time, who knew if there were further attacks planned?
Oh, yeah. Nobody knew. It became kind of hysteria at that point. So after not believing and turning on television and, seeing the first plane hit, I got out of there. Everything was shut down. So, of course, I was wearing like 3-inch heels and everybody on the street was just looking up at the sky. And what was so amazing about 9/11 was the night before it had rained, and it cleared out all of any smog or any smoke from just the normal city life. And the sky was just the bluest, most beautiful blue you'd ever seen.
People comment, I've heard that from everybody, that day was just such a gorgeous day in Manhattan.
Yeah, it was one of the most beautiful days, I think. I'm from New York. I've lived there for many years, so, I will never forget that color blue. And then standing out on the street, in my little heels and my little business outfit and looking up at the sky and seeing this billowing smoke. And then everyone's, everything got shut down. In fact, we were locked in the city for 3 days after, but we were, I had to walk, all the way back downtown and meet up with some friends. Everything was just shut down. But one thing that I remember too is all the bars that were, along the path were opening. So everybody was just getting trashed really early. and everybody was just giving away free drinks to everyone. And we were literally locked in the city. And then all the phone service went down. I think I was able to tell my mom, "Hey, Mom, I'm fine. I love you," and it went dead. And then we were just locked in. And then just finding each other along the way, and everybody was just crying and hanging out and getting drunk, and then you started to smell this metallic smell, and then you started to smell the bodies, and that happened within a few hours of the plane hitting. That was pretty brutal. And then you hear stories, just word of mouth, that they're starting to find body parts, and they're starting to transport them to the ice rinks on the west side. And that's when it became kind of weird. Is you're locked in Manhattan, all the bridges are secured, you cannot leave, and you're kind of just waiting to hear from anybody when you can get out, and who has a car, and who you can maybe get a ride with to get upstate. My family's from upstate New York, so I have a farm up there, so I was just desperately hoping to find a way out, and eventually we did. But that smell to this day, I'll never forget it.
Was there a sense of fear that there were going to be more attacks, maybe of a different kind that didn't involve airplanes? And if that's the case, Jill, did that last for days or for weeks afterwards on the island?
Oh man, it lasted for months. It didn't go away. There was a real sense of fear, and the people that did this really accomplished that. They wanted terror. Man, they got terror. And so that's one thing I learned pretty quick is freedom ain't free. This is an amazing country to live in, and all the men and women who saved everybody that they could, and the men and women that died. I think it's really important to remember the American spirit, and it made me even more of a patriot, and made me even more protective of this great nation. And anyone that isn't proud to be here really needs to think about these tragedies we go through, and how it makes us stronger. 4 months later, I was in a mental institution. Literally, I lost all of my money. I lost my jobs. I lost my mind. Practically, I slipped into a severe depression because I was living the life. I had an amazing world that I created for myself and my friends, and I had to move home with my mother, and I had to rebuild. So, and that just shows that the human spirit and perseverance, and it completely transformed me, and it turned me into a better person, a stronger person, and I look at it from that point of view, that I was able to birth something out of that experience and further my music career. Now I have the band of my dreams. I'm in Huntress, and I'm able to travel the world, and every time I'm traveling, every time I'm on a plane, I'm always very cognizant of what's going on around me. Let's just say that.
On high alert.
Wow.
I think everybody was there for a few months. And then, probably after a while, people who didn't live through it directly might have lowered their guard, and eventually you don't think about it much anymore. But I can imagine if you were right there, it's something that you don't put aside so easily.
You don't forget.
No, you don't forget. But you know what? New York we're a bunch of strong people. New Yorkers, we're witty, and we use sense of humor a lot to get over pain. And I think that we moved quickly because that's just the way New York is. East Coasters, it's kind of like, all right, time to move on, time to rebuild. And you do. I don't cry about it every day. I look at it, I reflect, and I move on.
All right, Huntress is a fantastic, pretty heavy band, and we look forward to seeing Huntress and Jill seeing you back in El Paso one of these days.
I think the closest they're going to be up in Albuquerque at the Launchpad playing with Arch Enemy.
All right, I'm
going
up there. I don't care when it is. I'm going. What day is it going to be?
We're pumped.
Yeah, no, that's going to be an amazing, amazing tour. Two powerful female women. It's going to be good.
Man, I'm really, really excited about the new era of Arch Enemy and Alyssa. Carrying on the torch from Angela, and it's a great honor to be touring with Creator, and just being on the road again this fall is going to be great. And every time we come to El Paso, and we had so much fun on the radio show, Lisa, the last time we were there.
Oh, good.
Thanks for having me back on, but we're really, really looking forward to getting down there, and to all of our El Paso fans. We love you guys, and can't wait to headbang with you again soon.
Well, thank
Sounds
you,
good.
Jill. It was really touching hearing the story and really fascinating listening to you talk, too. So I appreciate it.
Oh, hey. I'm glad to talk about it. You guys be well and, go America.
Thank you, Jill.
USA.
All right,
Bye,
thanks,
girl.
Bye-bye. Go America. Jill Janus of the band Huntress. She was
Yes.
in the building hours before.
That was intense.